What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel, and there is so much stuff to talk about, but I want to talk about the NBA playoffs because we are basically wrapped up with the first week. So many great first round matchups going on right now. Let me know what you guys think about the playoffs so far. But the first thing I want to talk about is the Los Angeles Clippers because they are kind of in a crappy position right now. They went to Phoenix and stole game 1, went up 1-0 on the Suns. Kawhi Leonard was absolutely sensational. He had 38 points, including 13 in the fourth quarter, and even though Russell Westbrook shot the ball terribly, he made clutch defensive plays on Kevin Durant and Devin Booker all game long, including a game-saving block and he threw the ball off of Booker's legs to force the turnover out of bounds. And Phoenix stole game 1. The Clippers stole game 1. The Suns dropped game 2. But the Clippers left Phoenix, I bet, feeling pretty comfortable and pretty good because they did what every underdog road team sets out to do at the beginning of a series. Just get a split, steal one on the road, and then you have home court advantage going back home. And that's exactly what happened for the Clippers, only to find out that Kawhi Leonard is going to sit out game 3 because of a sprained ankle. And when you just look at this, it's just another chapter of really what has been a failure of a super team dynasty formation, whatever you want to call it, for the Clippers. They sign Kawhi Leonard in the offseason in 2019, shake up the entire NBA by trading for Paul George, and it looks like they're the favorites to win the 2020 championship. Kawhi had just overcome a 0-2 deficit against the Bucks. They beat the juggernaut in the East in Milwaukee. They go to the finals, beat Golden State. He basically, people thought he ended the Warriors dynasty, and we know all know that wasn't true because they came back and won the finals last year. But anyway, he beats the Warriors in the finals. People are calling Kawhi Leonard the best player in the NBA because LeBron did not make the playoffs that year, and KD was going to be out for the entire next season with the Achilles injury. And so everyone's thinking it's Kawhi Leonard's league. He is the best player in the NBA. He just knocked out the MVP and Giannis in the conference finals. As I said, LeBron didn't make the playoffs that year, and Kevin Durant was going to be out for that entire season. And so it's pretty much his league. He signs with the Clippers. They get Paul George, and it's looking like they're going to be the favorites to not only win the West, but win the championship. It looked like Kawhi was the favorite to repeat as an NBA champion, and then they go along through that season, one of the best teams in the league, but they're load managing a lot with Doc Rivers there. They're not really building that chemistry. The season stops, they hit the bubble, and it's the playoffs. And they go up 3-1 against Denver, all is looking good, but then they blow the lead. They lose 4-3 in 7 games to the Denver Nuggets, and the season was a disaster at that point for the Clippers. And so Doc Rivers doesn't come back. He takes the job in Philly to be the Sixers' new head coach. And the Clippers come back next season and make the conference finals for the first time in franchise history, only to be without Kawhi Leonard for that entire conference finals series because he tore his ACL against the Utah Jazz, a series that the Clippers came back from being down 0-2 in. Utah was the top seed in the West that year in 2021, and the Clippers came back and beat them in the second round after being down 0-2. And so they make the conference finals. They lose in 6 to Phoenix, but everyone thinks that they would have won that series if Kawhi Leonard had been healthy. And the Clippers, I think, definitely were the better team. And then you fast forward to the following season, last season in 2022. The Clippers have a good regular season. They make the play-in tournament, but they did not make the playoffs because, one, Kawhi Leonard was not there at all. He didn't play at all last year. And they lost Paul George for the play-in tournament, who suffered an injury. New Orleans goes on to win the play-in tournament and take their playoff spot. They take Phoenix 6 in the first round. They lose, but it's looking like a great future for New Orleans. But for the Clippers, it's another heartbreaking end to the season in what was a season filled with high expectations, with one of the best two-way duos, one of the best superstar duos in the league. And then you look at what they've done this year, what they've been doing with Ty Lue. Kawhi and PG were building that chemistry. Paul George was an all-star this year. Kawhi Leonard was looking insane in those first 2 playoff games, and it looked like you could say, hey, maybe load management, it sucks in the regular season. It sucks for the fans not to be able to see their favorite players play. Some fans go to these different NBA arenas, they see these teams, and that's going to be the only time of the year they get to see them play. But we were saying, hey, maybe it is worth it to give your superstar, especially a superstar in Kawhi Leonard, extra rest so that he can be geared up for the playoffs. And then we go to game 3 and he's not even playing. So the Clippers, I don't think they're going to win this series without Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Kawhi Leonard is day to day. They're going to be without Paul George for at least this entire first round series. So if they're without their superstars, the Suns are going to beat them. Simple as that. Another failed season for the Clippers. And it sucks too. They're getting a new arena. They're trying to establish themselves as one of the big powerhouse sports teams in LA. And it seems like every time they get so close, something happens and just messes up their entire momentum, their entire rhythm, everything. So I feel bad for Clipper fans. If you're out there, I feel bad for you guys, and it's just a sucky situation. But the next thing I want to talk about is what's been going on in the Sacramento Kings and Golden State Warriors playoff series, because Sacramento, they took care of business, won the first 2 games at home. The Warriors won game 3 it was actually last night. They won game 3. Steph Curry went off 36 points, and they're back in the series now because that was a must-win game. If they had lost that game, they would be done. No team has ever come back from an 0-3 deficit in the playoffs. It's never happened, but I think it will happen someday, but the Kings aren't going to be that team to blow a 3-0 lead. So the Warriors did what they had to do. They won a must-win game without Draymond Green and without Gary Payton, 2 of their best defensive players. So great performance overall. But I want to rewind to game 2 of this series, because that is where all the headlines are being made after Draymond Green stepped on Domantas Sabonis and got suspended for that game 3. And if you guys, I don't know, if anyone's been living under a rock the last few days and hasn't seen the play, late in the 4th quarter, Domantas Sabonis goes down to the ground. He claimed what he was trying to do. He had his arms held up to his face like this. He said he was trying to protect himself, but in the process of doing that, he had wrapped up Draymond Green's leg. And then Draymond said he was trying to get his leg free, and he couldn't extend it very far because his leg just couldn't extend very far to not step on Sabonis. That's basically what he said. But what he did was he took his leg, stepped on Sabonis, and he drove it all the way into his chest and basically used Sabonis like a trampoline or a launching pad and just jumped off of him and got back on defense. And then immediately the refs blew everything dead. They blew the whistles. Kings fans that were courtside were going ballistic. They were like, how are you going to let him do that to our player? What ended up happening was they gave Sabonis a technical... Draymond got ejected. He got a flagrant 2 foul for stepping on Sabonis, and then Sabonis, I believe, got a flagrant 1, or he got a technical for grabbing Draymond Green's ankle. And then even after that, Draymond was heckling fans in Sacramento. They were shouting stuff at him. It wasn't really a good scene. It took away from what was a great basketball game, and it made it about more Draymond Green on the court antics. This season started with Draymond punching his own teammate in the face. We weren't supposed to see that clip. It somehow got leaked. But this is the thing with Draymond. He has to be like this. It gives the Warriors an edge. He's their only really Rough Rider player that's willing to get in everyone's face. And there's countless incidents of him doing stuff like this. But the Warriors let it slide because they know what he brings to their team. He's their best, arguably their best playmaker, their best defensive player, one of the best defenders of the last decade, honestly. He won Defensive Player of the Year in 2017. Probably should have won a few more Defensive Player of the Years if we're being honest. But my opinion on the situation is I don't have a problem with him being suspended. I definitely think Sabonis should have gotten some punishment too, and he did in the game. And I also thought that I don't see how you can't eject Draymond for that, because no matter what, the NBA, this is how fouls work. They're always going to punish the second guy. They're always going to punish the reactor and not the guy who starts it. And what Draymond did to react to what Domantas Sabonis did to him was he stepped on a player's chest and he jumped off of him. You can't do that. And so that's why he got ejected. That's why he got suspended. And the NBA also said that Draymond's pass did play a role in the suspension. If you don't know, most fans do. He got suspended for Game 5 of the 2016 Finals, and most people think that that was a turning point in that series and a big reason why Cleveland was able to come back and win. But, yeah, props to the Warriors for winning Game 3 without Draymond. They have a big Game 4 coming up on Sunday, and I think they're going to win that one too. I think it's going to be tied 2-2 going back to Sacramento for the pivotal Game 5, as NBA fans call it, because if you guys don't know, the team that goes on to win Game 5 of a playoff series goes on to win the series about 83% of the time, because they do get that 3-2 lead, and all they have to do is win one more game to close it out. So I am very much looking forward to what is another must-win game for the Warriors, because if they don't win that game and they go back to Sacramento down 3-1, I do not like their chances to come out of this series. However, if they lose that game, I could see them going to Sacramento and stealing a Game 5 to make it 3-2, but I just don't like their chances of fully completing a comeback from down 3-1. So, yeah, big game coming up for the Warriors and the Kings. Draymond will be back. He served his one-game suspension. He did his time, as people would like to say. And so those are the two main playoff series that I wanted to discuss in this video. And one other thing that I wanted to talk about with the NBA, something interesting that happened today, was the Raptors. The Raptors did not make the playoffs this season, as we all know. They were in the play-in tournament, and they lost the 9-10 play-in game matchup to the Chicago Bulls. It was the 9-10 matchup, so whoever lost that game was getting eliminated. Toronto was up 17 in the game, but Chicago came back, stole the victory, and now Nick Nurse is gone. They have fired their head coach, the guy that took the Raptors to that 2019 title along with Kawhi Leonard. And the thing about Nick Nurse is whenever a team with a superstar had to go up against the Toronto Raptors, they knew that they were going to be in for one hell of a game, because Nick Nurse knows how to take away an opponent's best player. As a Bucks fan, I've seen him do it to Giannis plenty of times. He did it to Joel Embiid in the 2019 playoffs. Joel Embiid and Giannis, those are actually like the two guys that he has had the most success against, I feel like, when it comes to taking away the other team's best player, because those are guys that love to get into the paint. And what Toronto has is a roster full of long, athletic wing defenders, and they have guys who can get buckets too, like Gary Trent, Fred VanVleet, obviously, who's been an all-star before. And so it's just interesting to think about how the state of the Raptors over the last few years, because when they won the title in 2019 and Kawhi Leonard left, they honestly had a big decision to make. In the following season, they were actually still the second seed in the East. They won a bunch of games. They had guys like Kyle Lowry, Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol, same Fred VanVleet, all those same guys still on their team. They were the second seed in the East. But they're kind of in a middle ground right now, because their roster is definitely good enough to compete, especially in the East, because I still think the East is a little bit weaker than the West when it comes to having these top-heavy teams and teams with realistic chances to win. They can keep this roster together, or they kind of have an option to blow it up and try and start it all over. I'm looking forward to seeing who they decide to hire as their head coach. Ime Udoka is a guy that's already floating around as a possibility. And when he gets there, to me, he's kind of a similar coach as Nick Nurse. He turned around the Boston Celtics when the Celtics were out of the play-in picture, and it was looking like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were playing their final days together on the team. One of them was going to have to go, and I think if they didn't turn it around, it was going to be Jaylen Brown. So, yeah, Ime Udoka is a great coach regardless of all the stuff that happened outside of basketball. So if he goes there and they hire him, I still think they're going to be a menace defensively. They'll still be a contender to make the playoffs in the East. I don't really see them changing up their roster too much in terms of blowing it up, I think. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about in this video. 3 topics: Clippers, Suns, Kawhi Leonard and his injury-prone, load-managing self, the Raptors firing Nick Nurse, and just my opinion on the Draymond Green Sabonis thing. As I'm recording this video, the Hawks and the Celtics are playing right now in Game 3. That series is going to be over pretty soon. I think the Celtics have that in the bag. And so let me know what you guys think about all the NBA playoff action. Who do you guys think is going to win the championship based off of what you've seen so far? Have your picks changed at all, or are you sticking with whoever you picked going into the playoffs? Let me know what you guys think about Nick Nurse's firing. It's just something I wanted to talk about really briefly, because he is a championship winning head coach who's now on the market. And whoever gets him, I think, is still getting a spectacular coach. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you for watching all my videos. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, and find the rest of my content linked in the description.